Hello everyone and welcome. This is Lisa. Today I'd like to share a fun technique with you using watercolor paper that's been painted with Brusho and plastic wrap on top. It's really easy. The worst part is just waiting for it to dry overnight. So as you can see, it's a silhouette with the sunset in the background. And we're going to get started here in just a second. So all I've done here is taken a piece of watercolor paper and I have taped it down with regular painter's tape onto a hardboard just so it won't warp while I'm working on it. These are a couple examples that I did yesterday. See that cool texture that the plastic wrap leaves? Especially in a sunset, there's light bouncing off of everything, so I think it's really cool. Now this one I wasn't so happy with because it created that line, and that's not what I was looking for at all. So that one's going to go in file G. So all you use is just regular plastic food wrap. This is just stuff I got from Costco. The dollar store stuff works just as well. This is my little palette. I've shaken out some yellow into the center because I think that's what I'm going to need most. And there is some gamboge there a little bit on the left side of that palette. So what I'm going to do is I have 2 jars of water here. One is for cleaning my brush and the other is just for clear water. I've taken this brush, this Stampin' Up! Brush that I've had forever. I don't even know when they stopped selling them, but it's a great brush. I use it a lot. So I'm just going to take some clear water and wet my paper. And then I have some fuzz there that I don't want there, so I'm scooching that off. And I'm just wetting all the way down. And then next I'm going to take some clean water and I'm going to mix the yellow. Now, I should tell you that I haven't really worked a lot with Brusho. I usually use watercolor paint, and so this is a little bit of a different medium for me. I have it too dark, so I'm going to put it in another little area there and add some more water to it to dilute it down. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm painting from the bottom, moving upward. And this is really pale, but that's okay because you want to start off light and go to dark, because once you start with dark, you can't make it lighter. So we'll just keep working with this till we get it the color that we'd like. So that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to add in some of the gamboge. Gamboge is a red-orange color. It's usually a pretty strong color, but in this case it's not looking so strong. So I realized that I'm going to have to add some more. The little jars that the Brusho comes in, it carries a lot of pigment. So you really just want to poke a small hole in the lid and just sort of shake it out onto your palette. So I'm going to be adding some more here so you can see what I mean. I have a push pin in the top of mine, and you just sort of have to tap it out. So I'm thinking that this is enough, but since this is a voiceover and I've already made the video, I know that it's not, but it is a little darker. And I'm still going from the bottom, brushing my way up. Here I'm adding more. Hopefully this will do the trick, right? So this time I'm just adding a dry brush. I'm not wetting it before I put it in there. And there we go. Now we're getting the consistency of color that we'd like. And it's looking a lot better. Now for some reason Brusho seems to dry darker than lighter, and as opposed to watercolor paint that dries lighter than darker, so I'm not really sure what properties are in this product that make it do that, but it's kind of cool actually. You just have to remember to put it on lighter than what you normally would. So I'm just evening out the top and making sure that it's an ombre effect going from light to dark. And now I'm getting my plastic wrap over there on the side. And I'm going to lay it down on top of my wet watercolor paper here. And you just sort of scrunch it up, scrunch it around, and since I made that mistake of having that line, I'm making sure that it's sort of scrunched in all different directions because we don't want to create that line on that one example that I showed you at the beginning. So like I said, the worst part of this technique is waiting for it to dry, because it does have to dry overnight and you can't heat set it. So you really do have to wait for it to dry. Now I'm setting this acrylic block just to have something heavy on top of it, and I'll set this aside and play with it some more tomorrow. Okay, so I'm stamping in my Stamparatus, and watercolor paper is thick and it is textured, so you have to stamp many times. Now these are clear stamps, photopolymer stamps, and then I switched to red rubber. Just a reminder, pull that black pad out of the Stamparatus before you go to red rubber. Now clearly here we have lots of light shining through in places that we don't want, because this is a silhouette. So I just have a black Sharpie marker here, and I'm filling in the ground, and we're going to fix the floating tree, and she has some light shining through her, and I've never known a see-through person, so we'll fix that. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes here doing that, making sure the ground comes up to the bike wheels, leveling that off because we don't want her to look like she's riding off of a cliff. And all I'm doing is taking a fine point Sharpie and drawing the rest of the trunk all the way down to the ground. And I'm just sort of fixing her where she has big open spaces, and then I switch back and forth with the markers. So it's looking pretty good, I think. You can see the texture there a little bit, especially at the top. So I think it turned out pretty good. So I'm going to bring in my card base here. It's a piece of basic black, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 and folded. I'm heat setting this because my paper is still a little bit damp, and I have used archival ink. I'm hitting the back of it real quick with the heat tool just to keep it from warping as bad. Now when you would hear, well, let's talk about the envelope first. I'm going to stamp on the envelope. The super cute stamp is an envelope, and it has little hearts, and it says sending hugs. So my original idea was that I was going to stamp it on the back, even though there's the line of the flap of the envelope. But I ended up deciding to stamp it on the front, because who doesn't want to get a card in the mail addressed to them with it saying sending hugs right in the front? So there's plenty of room for the address and the return address and all that. So when we adhere watercolor paper to cardstock, we need to use a very strong adhesive and not a wet one, so don't use glue. Here I'm using tape, and I'm using it very liberally. This is the Terran tape, and I have that down. Now this is a sand eraser. You can pick them up at any art store. I made a couple of boo-boos, so I'm trying to fix them. I was able to get rid of the one on the top, but not so much the bigger one on the side. So all in all, I think it looks pretty good. And then with a little envelope, it's pretty cute. So that's all I have today. Thank you for spending time with me. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. There's a red button down at the bottom, or you can click on my head over on the left side. So thanks again, and have a good day. Happy crafting. Bye-bye.